Good morning, everybody, from the beautiful Peachtree Cafe
Cafe
in the booming metropolis of
What is
Rimrock,
that?
Arizona.
Still under construction.
Very much under construction. Dina, Reed, can you please put that in the vase? Okay, guys. Good morning, wherever you are, and we want to say we're really enjoying what's happening with the show. We've been getting a lot of great feedback from around the world. Please do give us those likes on YouTube, and please send in your questions to seedquestions@diamondcutterinstitute.com. And we're looking at all questions coming in. We're getting a lot of great questions from pretty much everywhere around the world. We've been getting some great questions. We've been dealing with at least one question every day. Yesterday we were talking about Moran Pober's question from Israel. Great question, which I think is going to turn into a whole new series.
Yeah.
And then we finished yesterday with a question from our buddy Luisa from
Colombia.
Yeah, but she's from
Living in Germany.
She's from Colombia, living in Germany. And let me just play Luisa's question for you one more time. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Luisa from Colombia, but living in Germany, and this is my question. I would like to hear your opinion about karmic parenting. Children are the best catapult for us, for our spiritual development, because they really push our buttons very easy and very often. But to see where are the seeds that I planted to see my kids' own behavior is very difficult because the correlations are not very obvious. So what will be your advice on that and how to teach kids about karmic seeds? Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. Thank you, Luisa. Actually, Luisa was proactive and sent 3 questions, and we picked the one that we thought we could get to right now. So, karmic parenting, guys. Where do you want to go with that?
Well, first of all, I love the name. You know, I wrote a book, 15 years ago called Karmic Management, and that's the first time I heard anybody call it karmic parenting. So I want to thank you, Luisa, and I'm going to steal it for my next book. I think it's a great idea, and I'll throw something out, okay? I'll throw something out there. I have a couple of ideas, but one is that if the seed system is correct, and we know that seeds open in 4 different ways. The first way is that kind of what you do to somebody else comes back to you the same way. If you lie, then people will lie to you in this life. What's the second one?
Habits.
Yeah. If you lie, you get in the habit of lying. You know, you lie once to your wife or to your mom, and then you get into the habit and you start lying all the time. What's the third one?
Jesse Mike likes to pretend like he forgot to give other people an opportunity to talk.
Sometimes I really did forget. No, the third one is environment.
Environment. People and our environment.
Yeah, the people and the environment around you. Like, you will live in a country where people cheat on their taxes all the time, or people lie to each other all the time. And then the fourth one is deeper, you know, what happens to you later, you know, after you die, it depends on that. So, but what I'm thinking about is the third one. And what I wanted to say to Luisa, first of all, I think the most important thing to remember with kids, and none of us had kids, okay? But I think the most important thing to remember with kids is that they are a mirror of your own behavior. So that's the environment. Everything you see in your environment, which includes your children, is a mirror of yourself. So whatever problems you're having with your child, you have to be a karmic detective, and you got to go back to something you're doing, which is smaller
and similar.
Tiny things that you're doing grow into what your kid. So, for example, if your kid doesn't listen to you, what do you think would be the cause, and then how could you work on that?
Be a detective and look where in your life they are. It could be even only one person that we don't like to give attention or listen to, right? Mm-hmm. It could be many people, but it could be even only one person, and that will plant the seed.
So if, let's say you don't listen to somebody at work, would that follow you home? And then people at home wouldn't listen to you? Is that the way it works?
Okay, guys, so we do events in DCI offline, live events in about 35 cities around the world every year. And we're really excited about how this is taking the ideas, the essence of DCI out to many, hopefully tens or hundreds of thousands of more people. in those live events, we speak to people in person, and like during the break in the event, we get a lot of these same questions. So for those of you who haven't seen DCI before, or maybe not heard of it, what we're talking about are basically the way that mental imprints, or seeds as we refer to them, how they appear, how they express themselves in the world around us. And so we talked about the most obvious one, you get a similar result. Number 2, they say that doing something creates a habit of doing the same thing. Number 3, you see it creates the environment around you. Number 4 is a big deal. It's more profound. So now, will those seeds follow me home? As Geshe Michael said, yeah, big time. And this is...
They're not following you.
Well, that's a good point.
You're taking them home.
You're taking them home in this thing, because we say, and this is, it's a little bit hard in the beginning to wrap your head around, but it's fascinating that we are, you could say, participating in everything that we see around us. You might even say, I am literally creating, I'm producing the experience of everything around me. So yeah, I create an imprint with my child, or at work, it follows me home. I create an imprint with my child, and it follows me to work. You plant a seed over here, it's going to express itself whether they're there. Absolutely.
I often, about that point, I remember a woman who used to work for me in the diamond business. And she came to me and complained about all the people in her department, said they didn't like her, and she said, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go to another company where people will like me. And she quit. And I said, just come back after 6 months and tell me how it went, And she quit, and she came back after 6 months, and she said, the weirdest thing, when I first got there, everybody was nice to me. And then after a couple of weeks, they started acting exactly the same as the people that I left in this company, And then I wanted to scream at her, you took these things with you. You didn't quit.
You didn't change yourself,
you
right?
didn't change anything. So I think as a child, I wanna take one example, like a kid not listening to me. I ask them to do something, or tell them not to do something, and they just don't listen to me. So I think and that's one of the most common complaints that a parent must have about a kid, is they just don't listen to me. So what are some ways that we don't listen to other people?
Wow. I mean, there is obviously...
What? Just kidding.
There is the passive-aggressive way, right? When somebody talks to us, but we disconnect in our mind. We don't listen to them. But they cannot tell that we don't listen to them sometimes. We just disconnect in our mind.
My partner figured it out. Veronica figured it out. She says, when you're not listening to me, you stare at the space over at my head, and you keep nodding.
Yeah, look, no question. I confess I have that trait. I'm always trying to think of what I want to say. It comes from selfishness. A lot of times I find myself looking at people when we're having a conversation, and really I'm just waiting for them to stop moving their mouth so I can jump in and say what I want to say, which I think is most important. So they say, in the great essence of...
There is also the obvious way when somebody, not to listen to somebody, right? Meaning you just tell them, I'm not interested in you. I don't want to listen to you. I'm not interested in your opinion. So this is the gross level.
Even with mannerisms, even in the way that we look and talk to people. So the essence of what we teach around the world is based on an idea that everything I think and say and do creates an imprint which will force me to see something around me in some period of time. And then in the events around the world in DCI, we like to say, I know I like to say a lot of times, hey guys, this is the good news and the bad news. Which one you want first, the bad news or the good news? Bad news is I'm responsible for 100% of everything I see around me. Good news is I'm responsible for 100% of everything I see around me. And the reason it's good news is because since I'm responsible for it, I can change it. Right?
When people talk about their children, I always remember a time that Veronica, my partner, we went to see a very, very big lama, and there were 5,000 people there. And at that time, her kids were very young. They were I think 3 and 4 years old. Now they're 33 and 31. But I remember they asked, does anybody have a question? And 4,000 people raised their hand. And this high teacher pointed to Veronica, way back in the audience, and I was like, wow. And then she said, my kids are too young to understand the seed system, you know. So how can I help my kids be better children by if they're too young to understand the seed system? And the teacher, you know, gave it some thought and said, you know what, kids don't do what you say, kids just do what you do. And kids are watching you to see how you behave, and then they copy you. And I want to say, as a teacher for the last, 100 years, and having talked to, I think we calculated 100,000 people or something.
Actually, it's closer to 200,000 in DCI alone.
I'll tell you something amazing. Adults are the same. You know, they don't do, if you're talking about kids listening to you or adults listening to you, it's the same. Adults don't listen to what you say. Adults listen to the message of your life and your examples. So I'd say, you know, if you want your kids to listen to you, or you're having any problems with your kids, just realize that probably they're copying your behavior.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
They just
forget
copy.
seeds,
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
seeds.
They don't do what you tell them. They copy your behavior. It's true.
And so do adults.
I was thinking about something practical that might help anybody who has the same problem Luisa was talking about, you know, having issue with the kid. And there is a beautiful thing that we talked about in DCI a lot, and what we call a gratitude mindset. And I think can be very useful in this situation, is to think about how the kid is helped me, how my own kid helps me in my life. What are the benefits that the kid gave me in my life? And I think when we do have this gratitude mindset toward the kid, because we usually say, oh, the kid should be grateful to their parents, right? But we don't think the opposite. That maybe there is a place in my life to be grateful for the kid. And I think this mindset, because the kid come from us, and so if I feel grateful for them, and if I feel, oh, I'm so lucky I have them,
and they're healthy.
And they are healthy,
Wow.
and emotionally they are healthy. They develop correctly. Physically they are healthy. Then we are planting a different seeds, and we will see them differently.
I think Louisa was talking about that because she said my kids catapult me into higher spiritual level, and I think that's really true. I think kids can do that for you. You know?
Yeah, she talked about she used the word catapult, and we were talking about that before we started this broadcast. And yeah, it's a really good word. It's like a trigger. You know, we talk about that a lot in DCI, the kinds of things that trigger us, and it usually comes from not understanding where things are coming from in the first place, where you get triggered because you forget that thing, you know, logically according to this system, I created in the first place. It's hard to get to that point, but we like to say in DCI events that if you can consider that, it's like the beginning of a radical shift in the way that you live. You start approaching things from a completely different perspective.
So in a practical level, maybe sit down and write down all the good things that you get from the relationship with the kid, and all the good things that happens because the kid came to your life. And I think that will plant a seed to have a different, to see the kid differently, and for the relationship with the kid to change.
On a conventional basis, and then use that for...
I'll throw in a deeper thing. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You know, this is if you really want to get, you know, really crazy about it. Okay, here's my logic. If the Diamond Cutter Sutra has been around for 2,500 years, which we kind of based our company on, and if it's correct, then certain people in the world have perfected their mind already. They've used the seeds for many, many years, and their mind is totally, you know, evolved to a higher level, right? And then at some point they can sort of choose how they appear to people. And so that's, you know, we like to play in DCI with the possibility that people that you meet from time to time might already be some kind of super evolved being, you know?
Yeah.
And it's possible. I mean, I think it's kind of cool sometimes when you're having trouble with your child or something, to imagine that maybe this is one of those super evolved people already. you know, and maybe they're trying to send me some message about myself.
Yeah.
You know.
So the imagination itself will already plant the seed.
Yeah, that plants a
That's
powerful
cool.
seed.
Yeah.
That's cool, and it's hard to do in the moment. You know, this is something we talk about a lot in DCI. When you get off balance, when you get your buttons pushed, you know, when you get catapulted or triggered, it's really hard to remember. Maybe I created that in the first place. And something interesting that we've been talking about for 11 years in DCI is, guess what? They were talking about the same thing 2,000-3,000 years ago. They had the same problems, and they were talking about the same. They probably had the same morning show back then, just without an iPhone 11. And and they were saying, look, if you can try to remember, maybe it's coming from me. Then that totally changes maybe the way that you react to things. And I say that's the essence of leadership: acting differently in difficult situations.
So 3 things.
Okay, yeah, we like to close the show with 3 specific things you can do.
Right.
You have any?
Okay, so from our conversation, I gathered 3 things to do.
Go for it.
The first one is to, I would start from the end, is to imagine that the kid is kind of a special being that came to my life to help me evolve.
Yeah. And even when they misbehave,
Especially when
they're struggling to send you a message about yourself.
Yeah, so there is a message there about myself that will help me figure out something important for my life. So this is the first practical thing. The second one is make a list about all the good things that comes out from having a kid and your relationship with the kid. And the bigger the list is better. So what we call the grateful list, right?
Wow.
And then the third thing is that whatever I see in my kid that I don't like,
it's a mirror.
It's a mirror. Where do I do it to other people? Okay.
In smaller ways.
In smaller ways, exactly. Cool. So 3 things. Okay.
What about proactive? Like, can I can start a daily practice of trying to specifically not interrupt somebody, or
listening. If I see my kid don't listen to me, so I will make it a common practice in my life to start to increase my ability to listen to others.
Like, you guys should see, like, when we're sitting here before we start the broadcast and discussing what we're going to do, we're sitting here, we're talking back and forth, and it's almost like a wrestling match. We're trying to see who can get their ideas in first. And that's a really good place to try to practice. And for me, I have to really take a breath and step back and say, oh, okay, I got all these ideas, but I'm going to step back and try to wait till everybody else is finished talking. Small shifts in daily habits. We say, because seeds grow, create big results, right?
Okay, now I'd like you to show the question for tomorrow, and I'd like to just our listeners to know that tomorrow we're going to have a special guest. It's Nick Lashaw, who's the director of the Ancient Text Translation Program at
Nick.
Sedona College of International Management, which she's the dean of.
Yes.
And it's going to be amazing. I think he's translating some ancient texts about emptiness and how we can apply that to our real lives. We're going to hear from Nick tomorrow.
So don't miss tomorrow. And we have also an excellent question.
Yes, another rose. I believe these are from Geshe Michael's garden, actually, right?
They're from the store, actually.
So edit that part out. Okay, guys, for tomorrow, all the way from Hamburg, Deutschland, our wonderful friend Sylvia Engelhardt with a great question that I think is on a lot of people's minds. Here we go.
Good morning from Hamburg. I'm here in my office at the harbor site, and I want to thank you first for this amazing show. This is so inspiring, and I enjoy it very much. My question is, what are the seeds for being brilliant and excellent at what you do? Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Brilliant question, Sylvia.
Amazing.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll get the answer.
Have another coffee
Thank
on
you,
me.
Lucia, for your question again.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Thanks everybody who's asked questions so far. Remember, seed questions at diamondcutterinstitute.com. Only video questions in vertical selfie style, under 30 seconds, about all areas of life. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye for now.
Bye.